It's Dwayne Thomas here. I'm the founder of Dwayne Thomas Coaching and the Arc to Wellness. I'm a certified food over medicine instructor and a certified life coach.
And I'm David Clay. I'm a certified yoga instructor and a lifelong learner and an advocate for healthy aging. I just want to thank Aunt Charlotte, Charlotte Wood, for inviting us to talk to you today about health and healthy choices.
And thanks to the Women's Ministry for having us today. And David and I were talking about this over the weekend, and we talk about this fairly often when we chat. And the thought is this: convenience is actually really killing us. Slowly, gradually, convenience is killing us. And so what started off as something that was, beneficial, helping us with our busy lives, I think it's taken a turn for the worse. And now, you can't go anywhere without driving down the highway, and you'll see these choices for foods that really aren't providing us the nutrition that we need to live healthier, longer lives.
Yeah, and like Dwayne's saying, it's making it almost too easy. We can kind of mindfully get our calories right, but we aren't really thinking about the consequences of the food that we're eating. So the food that's so convenient is like nutrient poor and calorie rich, right?
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we'd like you all to really have as a takeaway, right? The difference between getting food that provides you with nutrients that really help the body, or having excess calories that really lead to weight gain and fat storage and ultimately inflammation. So we're going to talk about all those things as we take a look at a couple of slides as well that will really kind of give a framework for what we're talking about, and how one of the most important parts to this this piece of choosing your path to optimal health is awareness. And we're hoping to contribute to that today.
Absolutely.
All right, so this first slide, awareness, reflection, and choice. And actually, that's the name of the philosophy and the practice that I've founded. It's called the Arc to Wellness. And we think those three things are really key to helping us improve our health outcomes and really helping us teach our children, ways to become more healthy. So you're mobile, you're active, and you're living life to the fullest well into your 80s and into your 90s as well.
Absolutely. And your awareness kind of starts here. It starts with your education, your exposure to some information that might be new to you, and it might be a little bit challenging. And that's where reflection comes in, and then you can choose to be on the path to wellness.
And so we're going to take a look at what typically makes up the Western diet, and how these food choices actually impact our health. And so this is a little graph, and this, you can't see that. I think it's behind the image of David, but from the USDA Economic Research Service, this is a graph that goes back to 2005. So the numbers have changed since then, but I wager that they haven't really changed for the better. If you look at this this pie chart, you'll see that over 60% of the diet of a typical North American is processed foods. And by processed foods, and we'll show you some images later, we're talking about things like deli meats, we're talking about frozen foods, those types of things. And if you look over there, the next largest segment of the pie is meats and eggs and dairy. David, what's your thought on the percentage that we have of plant foods and whole grains?
Well, it's pretty amazing, actually. It's a bit shocking that what I'm actually going to be advocating is a total reversal, where your plant foods and your whole grains are actually going to make up 100% of your dietary intake. So, but don't get too scared. It can be a gradual, it can be a process, right? Where this happens.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, yeah, awesome.
So let's take a look at animal foods. And so many of the processed foods that we're eating too are composed of animal foods, although you will see you know, a lot of the chips and things like that are not. But when we're thinking about animal foods, there's the dairy piece of it, your cheeses, milk, and then also eggs, right, are a big part of our diet. And with that, we've got saturated fat. There's high sodium levels, particularly with cheeses. Sugar is involved with milk consumption, as well as animal protein. And there are a lot of things that at a certain sort of level of intake of animal protein, you start to see impact for cell health.
Yeah.
David?
So this kind of leads us into our topic for today, which is diabetes. And so you see these foods here. They're all animal products. Obviously, they're loaded with protein, and everyone thinks we need so much protein, but actually we don't. We can get all the protein that we need from our plants, our legumes, our whole grains. So that's not a worry. The antibiotics and growth hormones that are in all these foods, it's actually harming us at the cellular level. And saturated fat is a contributor to all these actually are contributor to diabetes, and that's our topic for today. So I mean, you know, what is happening within the body is the cells are becoming surrounded by saturated fat in the body, and that's inhibiting insulin to get into the body and into the cells and to unlock the door so that your glucose can flow in. So the glucose or sugar is staying inside of the blood cells, and that's why sometimes it's called sugar diabetes.
Right, and there we're talking about type 2 diabetes. And the thing about animal foods is you are getting mainly protein and fat, and then some of the undesirable things that you see here with antibiotics and growth hormones because of the agricultural practices that are so rampant in North America. And so your body has to not only work hard to break down the protein to get you know, something good from that, it also has to deal with the toxins that it's taking in with the hormones and the antibiotics. And as David mentioned, the crucial part to diabetes that I think often is misunderstood is what's called insulin resistance. So every time we eat something, you know, the pancreas will secrete insulin to help to bring glucose into the cells. And so insulin resistance is a situation where there's too much fat within the cell that's inhibiting the insulin's ability to bring glucose into the cell. So the fat is actually taking place of what should be glucose, the fuel that the body prefers to use. And so you get that buildup of glucose in the blood cells, as David mentioned, and that's what happens with excuse me, with type 2 diabetes.
And that's why you know, if you have diabetes, you might feel tired because you aren't really getting the energy from your food. The energy is in the form of glucose, and that's what you're going to be getting from your plants and your whole grains. There was something that I wanted to talk about because in the previous slides, you're seeing foods that don't have any fiber. So a lot of times this food just stays in the gut, and it just is going to leach the hormones and the other chemicals into the body.
Right, and that's one of the things that I think we don't talk about enough is fiber intake, and we'll touch on that a little bit more as we go through some of the slides. And so these are a couple of the common risk factors that you'll see with too much animal food intake. You have high cholesterol, right? It increases blood cholesterol levels. And the other interesting thing that we want to bring to your attention is that animal protein actually raises cholesterol even more than the saturated fat that you get in meats. And some of you all may know this already, but excess protein, it contributes to heart disease, cancers, and it also contributes to damage for these vital organs, the kidneys, your kidneys and the liver. And those are two organs that are crucial to eliminating toxins from the body. And so if you have a compromised liver, it's going to affect you in many different ways. If you have compromised kidneys, it's going to affect you in different ways as well. And these are all things that are preventable based on your dietary habits.
Exactly. And I think somewhere along the line, we were taught that we need tons of protein, but we really are going to get it solely from, or can get it solely from plants and animals. I mean, I'm sorry, plants and whole grains, not from animals.
Right, and that's the thing. It's like there's a threshold for, I think it's important to state this as well. You can have optimal health and live a perfectly good life eating animal foods. However, you really have to limit that intake, right? If you're going to have animal foods, you really want to look at maybe 2 or 3 servings per week, ladies and gentlemen, per week, not 2 or 3 servings a day, which is typical for most North Americans, right? The studies show that if you limit it to maybe 3 servings a week, then you should be fine. You're not going to see any adverse effects as far as things like cancer growth and issues to vessels and things that contribute to cardiovascular disease. Processed foods are one of the things that are the most implicated where convenience comes in, right? Let's take a look at this this list. Pizza, deli meats, pastries, all these things they carry tons of fat, excess sodium, and sugar. In fact, that's really what goes into these products to make them appealing, to give them that, as they say in the industry, I think the word is craveability, right? We have this this desire for another muffin or a scone or a hot dog at the ballpark. And all these things are really working to they contribute to things like insulin resistance because of the fat buildup. They also contribute to imbalances between your omega-6 fatty acids and your omega-3 fatty acids. And when you have refined sugars in your diet, it's also, again, calorie rich and nutrient poor.
Yeah. Absolutely. And notice what's going on in your advertising. The foods that Dwayne just talked about, the slides we just showed, think about the advertising that's around those and that's around processed food and around fast foods. Think about how much money they've invested in programming us to desire those foods. And then once we do succumb to it, then we're bombarded with these addictive chemicals in sugar and in fats.
And again, it comes back to choice.
Right, absolutely.
But the first step really is awareness, right? If we understand that the more animal foods we eat, the higher our blood cholesterol levels are, the more fat that we're going to end up storing in our bodies, it does a couple of things, right? It both suppresses the immune function, which is vital to the body being able to fight off viruses, being able to fight off bugs in the environment, and to stay healthy given all the toxins that we're exposed to on a daily basis. And it contributes to weight gain. And weight gain is one of the primary risk factors to things like type 2 diabetes and other chronic illnesses.
Yeah. In fact, 90% of the people who have diabetes are also overweight and obese. So
right,
there's a relationship to that.
Absolutely. And the thing about inflammation, I think we may have touched on that earlier, but let's dive in a little bit deeper here. It's the common denominator, as Dr. Pam Popper says, in almost all disease conditions. And I'm not sure if any of you have had a blood test recently. If you take a look at the CRP level, it's the C-reactive protein level. That's a really good indicator to inflammation somewhere in the body if it's over 1 milligram per liter. And chronic inflammation, it's like it's almost the it's the source for other things going wrong in the body.
Right.
And a lot of times what you'll find in this next thing, you'll see the high cholesterol that accompanies excess intake of processed and animal foods. High cholesterol is really going to be, again, a symptom of something else going wrong in the body that needs to be addressed, not suppressed. But too often, if you go to your family practitioner, you go to your GP, and they say, okay, look, blood test shows that you have high cholesterol. Well, you've got a choice between Crestor or Lipitor. You got to, they'll prescribe a statin drug to help lower the cholesterol, and what that does is it suppresses the liver's ability to produce cholesterol, but it doesn't address the cause or the issue for why the liver was producing that excess cholesterol to begin with. It's not helping to improve your health. It's really working to manage your symptoms.
Exactly, and that's why these chronic diseases are so insidious in a way, because the medical association, the medical community makes it, and pharmaceutical community makes it appear that all you need to do is live with these diseases. I'm actually advocating reversing, first preventing, then reversing and curing those diseases. We can do that by introducing a whole lot of plants into our diet.
And it's interesting that progression that you talk about there, David. And particularly, I mean, we're talking to this particular audience. I know there's a lot of folks there who have kids or grandkids. It's really, I think, mission critical. Because just a quote from Dr. Robert Ratner of the American Diabetes Association says, "There's no question that we're in the midst of a diabetes epidemic." A diabetes epidemic, right? And the amount of dollars, the amount of money that's spent through Medicare to care for people with diabetes, it's really astronomical. I think the stat is something like 1 in 3 Medicare dollars goes to treatment of diabetes. All this stuff, it just doesn't have to be this way. That's the real thing that we're trying to convey here by bringing some awareness to some of the risk factors to a condition like type 2 diabetes. Because if you adopt a different dietary pattern as a lifestyle, you can prevent any of these things that you're seeing on the screen right here from happening.
Absolutely.
If any of these things you're seeing on the screen, whether it be a gastrointestinal disorder or some cardiovascular issues, cancer, autoimmune diseases, all of these things can be remedied by adopting a whole foods plant-based diet. And again, it's a plant-based diet. If you can't give up meat for some reason, you're okay. That's fine. You can do that. But you do have to recognize that you have to limit that to no more than 3 servings a week of meat. And that meat needs to be organic. If it's going to be fish, it needs to be wild caught. You can't have things that are produced by these massive agricultural farms that are using antibiotics and hormones to, plump up and help sick animals survive, so they can then be introduced into the food chain. And unfortunately, that's really the state of affairs with the agricultural industry today.
Yeah. And just watch the processed meats. The World Health Organization in 2015 actually came out and said that processed meats are type 1 carcinogen. So it's quite serious. I really don't want to scare you guys, but I just want hopefully bring some awareness, so that it will just allow you some space or something to reflect on. And then make the choices that you see, that you think are good for you and your family.
Right, and listen to your body.
Yeah,
A
absolutely.
lot of times I think we really know that when we eat a certain food, there's a pretty immediate consequence for that.
Yeah,
Yet, we continue to do that. Um, think about how your foods are being cooked and who prepared it. I think there was a statement about like so much of the food that we consume these days, it's prepared by a corporation.
right.
And that's not a good thing because they're looking for the cheapest way to manufacture whatever it is and to put that on the plate to serve that. And what they're going to do is they're going to add things like sugars, refined sugars. They're going to add fats, and they're going to add lots of salt to give it that taste, that craveability again that we're so familiar with. Um, but you can, if you recognize that that's having a huge impact on your health, then you're in a position to make a change. Like I always say that, have a conversation with your doctor, but make sure that you're thinking for yourself.
Exactly.
And David and I were talking about, driving as a metaphor for many things, and he was talking about like when you're driving, you're really taught to look down the road to think about, what's happening ahead of you and what might be, what might you do in response to X, Y, or Z. For some reason, we don't have that same kind of training or understanding when we think about our own health. We're not really looking 12 years down the road as to like what condition do I want my body to be in, when my grandkids are here, or what do I want to be doing when, how do I want to be when I need to go to some event that I want to participate in. You have more control of that than you might think, but it really is something that needs to start today when you start to think about the choices that you're making where diet is concerned. And this is a slide that both David and I really, really embrace. The right
Absolutely.
diet and lifestyle choices can prevent, stop, and even reverse many common degenerative conditions. And that applies to cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, and even cancer.
Hmm. So true.
And here's the answer: plant foods. David had mentioned this earlier. One of the beauty of that too is look at the colors there, look at the vibrance
That's right.
there, and that's nature really telling us this is good for you. Those
That's
berries
right.
up there, there's all kinds of goodness there that can help ill, that can help improve illness. Those grains, all those things, those green leafy vegetables there. There's so much energy there that the cells are looking for that unfortunately we're not getting most of the time, because right now in North America, so many of us are nutrient deficient, and we just don't have the vitamins and minerals that the body needs to function at an optimal level. But it's also in our power to make decisions and choices that improve those odds and start to shift the balance in our favor.
Yeah, and the body will actually respond. This is the coolest thing about the body is how intelligent your own body is. It will literally respond to your attention, to the respect and love that you give to it, and to the healthy food that you will begin to put in it. And the inflammation and the even the like pains of arthritis and things like that, or the irritable bowel syndrome or things like that that you might be experiencing, that will just kind of begin to leave the body, and you'll just feel so much better.
Yeah, and as that process is happening, it's actually a lot quicker than you might think.
Yeah,
If you really make a drastic change and say, you know what, I'm off of dairy, I'm dumping all my meat choices. You know what, I'm just going to have like fish on Thursdays or whatever it is. You're the master of your own fate here when it
that's right.
comes to what you're putting into your body. But the thing that's missing in most Americans' diet is fiber.
Yeah.
And fiber plays such a vital role. I mean, fiber can do things like it'll help lower your cholesterol levels because of the way in which it functions, right? It binds to the food that's in your stomach, and it allows a slower digestion, and so the nutrient absorption is a slower process. So all of the levels of glucose and cholesterol lower in response to that. And you get soluble fiber from things like an apple, right? Whole foods is what we're looking for, not things that come in a box or in a package.
Exactly. And fiber makes the body feel full. It's a great way to just regulate your own appetite. So yeah, and you're gonna find it in plants. You aren't gonna really find it in the animal products.
Yeah, there is no fiber in animal foods. There just isn't any, and it's such a necessary part to a healthy digestive system and a healthy healthy body that it's almost criminal that we don't think about how vital it really is, and the fact that you can only get fiber from plant sources. There are supplements you can get. You might be familiar with psyllium husks. That's a good way to add fiber into your diet. We can talk about some of those things maybe at another time. But anyone who's having sort of constipation or those kinds of issues, you really just need to think, wow, one, I need to get more fluid. And by fluid, I don't mean soft drinks, no sugary drinks. We're gonna talk a little bit about that at the end, but more water into your system, so things can move along a little bit better, and also more fiber to help bulk up the stool and get things moving. You don't want to have days go by without having a bowel movement, because that's just increasing the circulation of toxins within the body. So what's happened really is, your liver has done a lot of work to process foods and get them ready to eliminate, but nothing's happening. And so those things just get reabsorbed, those toxins just get reabsorbed in the body, and the liver just has to work and do the same job all over again.
Mm-hmm.
And the key piece about plant foods that we really, I think, are kind of unfortunately blind to is how much good they do protecting cells from toxins, getting rid of harmful free radicals in the body. All these things come from the phytochemicals or the phytonutrients within plant foods, and it's not something that's available in animal foods.
Exactly. You really have to consider the environment that we're living in, and this, and yeah, definitely you need to fortify the body so that it can deal with all the toxins that we're all living with.
Right, because that's modern society is a toxic world, but if you are, as David pointed out, if you're fortifying the body with these kind of foods that really help build your immune system, help you detoxify, help you eliminate things from your system, then you're going to be a healthy person well into your 90s. That's the
Absolutely.
goal.
This is the part I like too about eating this way. You don't have to worry about calorie restrictions. You can literally eat as much of all the foods that you see on the screen right now as you can. You can eat them constantly, all right? You will not gain weight. You'll just essentially lose weight. Your body will be so much healthier. You'll feel so much better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you mentioned losing weight. One of the things that I think that's a goal of many people. It's like, oh, I got to find a way to lose weight. And so you look for some kind of a diet. And, how many folks out there have tried a diet and haven't been able to stick with it, and so the diet's failed? It's not so much that you failed, but the diet itself really wasn't going to be something that could help you in a long term. You might lose weight initially, and then 6 months down the line, you've gained it back.
Yeah, and let me just add something right here. Yeah, because you know, calorie restriction is actually not what you. I mean, it's actually going to cause you to, like Dwayne said. Actually, I didn't need to chime in because Dwayne, you're doing just fine.
Go
But
for
you're
it.
right. Calorie restriction is just going to cause you to fail in your diet because you won't be satisfied.
Yeah, and you're not going to be happy, and you won't be satisfied. Your body won't be satisfied. You'll have these cravings, and then you've got this psychological sort of stress going on that just it's not worth it.
Yeah.
If you like a whole foods plant-based diet, it's a lifestyle change, and you'll find that the flavors, the textures, everything is there. You just don't have the fat, the salt, the refined sugar, those things that we're so accustomed to in a typical Western diet.
Yep.
There's some good things that that are available. Books, Food Over Medicine. Pam Popper is based out of Columbus, Ohio. I'm a certified food over medicine instructor. She's a naturopathic doctor and is the founder of the Wellness Forum Institute. Dr. Joel Fuhrman, Super Immunity's terrific book. All these things give you recipes if you're interested in looking at them. Garth Davis, he's an MD. He's a bariatric surgeon in Houston. And in fact, he had written a book that was pro animal foods, pro protein, everything else 8 or 9 years ago, until he realized himself that he was suffering from high cholesterol and he was on the road to cardiovascular illness. He changed everything, changed his philosophy, changed his diet, obviously, and also felt obligated to write the book Proteinaholic to really dispel the myth that we need more protein. In fact, protein is one of those things that's contributing to the illnesses that we see, and because it's so readily available, it goes back into that convenience thing, and we see all these whey protein, tubs that are available to people, and we think that we're doing a good thing. That's the real tragedy.
Good point.
Right?
Good point.
It's like, oh, we think that we need protein because that's what we've been told, that's what we've heard. But it's funny that some people are told that they need protein to lose weight. Some people are told that they need protein to gain weight. It's kind of amazing that it can do anything, but nobody tells you except Garth Davis. And actually, a lot of people are coming out with this information. It's not as if it's new. It's just we don't hear about it. Right? That's the thing. We don't hear about the fact that excess protein contributes to a lot of issues that we have that are rampant that we don't need to have. And including diabetes. And here I'm talking about animal protein, not protein that comes from plant sources. And the last one it's a really interesting book called When the Body Says No by Dr. Gabor Mate. And that book is really looking at the cost of stress to contribute to a bunch of different chronic illnesses that people have. So that's the other piece that we need to keep in mind. If we're able to manage our stress better, then our body responds to the nutrients that we put into it a lot better.
Absolutely, and that's one of the things I love about yoga, right? Yoga and meditation. You call it anything you want to, stretching and toning, prayer, any way you can get kind of a peaceful, reflective attitude. That's going to help your health in the long run.
Yeah, and cool. What we want to leave you with is like 3 habits to break, 3 habits to make. And I'm not sure if they're habits, but the first one is to think about animal foods. If you're, and it's summertime too, because I can almost smell the barbecues out there. It's that time of year, and I get it. Like I used
Right.
to love breaking out the Weber grill and the charcoal briquettes and all that kind of stuff. I don't do it
Yeah.
anymore. Like if you were looking into my backyard right now, the Weber grill is out there, and I've got arugula growing in there and a head of lettuce in the middle of it.
Perfect.
That's what I've done with my Weber grill. It's sort of symbolic, yeah, I guess, but it's because I don't want to barbecue meat any longer. In fact, truth be told, when you burn meat like that on a grill, that's just increasing the toxicity of the meat. It's a thing called HCAs. It's complicated. If anybody wants to learn more about it, actually, they talk about it in Proteinaholic. It's a good read, but we have to recognize that we are making choices when we decide to have that hot dog at the ballpark, or not even at the ballpark, at the Sheets, when we go there and have that dog loaded up with squeezable cheese and whatever else you want
Right.
to put on there.
Okay. Right.
You have to realize that that might taste in a way that's familiar and good, but it's not giving the body what it needs to be optimally healthy and to live a long life where you're mobile well into your 90s. It's going to contribute to inflammation, which is going to contribute to something else, whether it be a cardiovascular issue, type 2 diabetes, or some form of cancer. That's the reality. But we can make different choices, right? So be mindful of that. Limit your animal foods if you can't eliminate them altogether. Dairy is one of those things too, David. I mean, do you have some things to add on dairy? But dairy has to go if you can. Try to substitute some sort of a nut milk for that if possible. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's really no reason for an adult to have any dairy products, and the only people who really need dairy are babies and what I guess young, very, very, very young children. And the only kind of milk they need is their milk from their own mother. So Dick Gregory famously said, "Cow's milk is for cows." All right.
Yes, exactly.
I was gonna do is cause inflammation and increase the saturated fat in the body and contribute to all the chronic illnesses that Dwayne spoke about, and especially diabetes.
Yeah, and milk has a lot of sugar in it as well. I mean, people don't think about that, but it does.
And hormones. The hormones
Exactly.
can make havoc. And some people really say, some studies have said that the hormone in milk is actually, and cheese is actually contributing to breast cancer. So.
Yeah, there's some vital stats like that, and we talk about things like eggs too. We don't want to have an excess of that. Excess egg consumption also contributes to things like prostate cancer. There are studies that document that as well. And so, like I take a bit of information like this. If studies show that eating more than 2 eggs a week contribute to a 40+% risk of developing prostate cancer, that gives me some information to act on. Exactly. I don't have to. I can say, okay, that doesn't matter to me. Whatever, I'm still going to have eggs. Or I can say, you know what? Do I really crave eggs like that to where I'm going to put myself at risk? And again, it's a choice. We're bringing some information to you. It's up to you to take that information, reflect on it, do your homework. Get in touch with us if you want some more one-on-one information. That's great. And then make the choice. But it's about an informed choice rather than a choice where you're just doing something almost robotically or without any thought put into it. Because really, convenience is killing us, and it's the food that's at the root for these epidemic illnesses and unexplained illnesses that we have. These autoimmune conditions, our gastrointestinal issues. It's the food that we're putting into our bodies, right? And that we have control over. So
absolutely,
animal food is the first one to break.
Right. I would just like to encourage you guys to maybe if the ones who really wanting to take action, you can form groups that can be very, very supportive, right? You don't have to do it alone. I do advocate the idea of thinking as an individual human being as opposed to a member of some blanket culture that culturally does X, Y, Z. But definitely, if you look around the table or wherever you guys are sitting, yeah, maybe you can form some groups that might actually can support each other on this journey.
Absolutely, and there's a lot of stuff that you can find with healthy recipes. There are actually apps that you can get that you can use to do your grocery shopping, so you're all set up when you go home. There are other things, and I was talking to my mom about this too. If you're sort of challenged with time and stuff, there are plenty of outfits out there that will actually deliver produce to your door. I mean, we have a delivery every other week here up in Ontario, and this is Canada, so I know the U.S. has something else going on that's a little bit more exciting than that. And we could have it once a week if we wanted to, but we don't need it that often. And you can pick what's being delivered to you. Take advantage of those things, because time is an issue. And sometimes time is an issue, and that's why we default to ordering a pizza or picking up a rotisserie chicken from Martin's. Martin's doesn't exist anymore, but you know what I'm saying? I mean, we pick these things up on the way home because we don't have time. But if we have these things already delivered to our home that are there, ready for us to prepare, it puts us in a much better position to make a healthier choice. The other thing that one of the habits to break, processed foods. That's something that really, eliminate if possible. Certainly work on reducing these types of things and how things are prepared. Fried foods. If you can get away from doing that, it's also going to be beneficial to your health in the long run. And then on the beverage front,
it's a big one.
You gotta think about how much sugar is involved in soft drinks. That's it. Think about that. Sugary drinks and alcohol, it's a lot of sugar. You really ought to just think, is that helpful? Do I need that? Especially when you go to something, again, I'm going to bring up Sheetz again, and it's not a Sheetz commercial, but the size of these things, how big are these things?
Oh my God.
They're massive.
Like 64 ounces.
They're the size of my head, right? Anyway, that's not the way to go. It's not going to help your body. That's the kind of refined sugar that really does take a toll on the blood vessels and the cardiovascular system over time, because there's no nutrients there. It's not like getting sugar from an apple. The glucose that comes from an apple comes with a lot of other things to it, from vitamin C to fiber to everything else. And so it has a vastly different impact on your body. You don't get that spike, that sugar spike, which is an insulin spike. It's a much more gradual introduction of the glucose into the bloodstream, and it's a healthy one.
Yep.
3 habits to make, and then we're done, I think, right? What's the first one?
Yeah.
It's the P word.
I don't know.
Plant food. Plant food.
Plant food, man. Are you kidding me? I know that one like the back of my hand. So yeah, stuff the plant foods in. Go organic if you can find it. But definitely, that's your bread and butter, so to speak. That's your go-to.
The new bread and butter.
It's 100% plant food, whole foods. You're just gonna, and your taste buds will actually adjust. Right now, you might think of it as kind of bland if you're eating a lot of salt and sugar, but eventually your taste buds will adjust, and you'll really enjoy the delicate flavors of these wonderful godsends.
Absolutely, and your body will love it even more, right?
Oh, yes.
That's the key. Like, pound the body with produce. Pound the body with produce. You'll get the phytonutrients you need to sort of clean things up, to help detoxify, to support the immune system, and to move toxins along the colon. Good stuff. Beverage. First beverage of choice is
H2O.
There you go.
Water.
H2O. Water has to be the first beverage that you reach for. Yes, it's good for you. And if you can, filtered water. As long as water is your first choice beverage, that's the thing to go. You want to look at having at least 64 ounces of water a day. That's going to help everybody. Your cells, the body is made up mostly of water, so we have to start to make sure that we're replenishing that, particularly when we talk about a Virginia summer, wherein it's super hot out there and humid. Just keep drinking water. Your body will love it, and you'll be on your way to improving your health. Third habit to make, and I'm going to hand this one over to David, the certified yoga instructor within our midst. It's all about movement.
Yes. Yeah, 20 minutes a day at least, get out and walk. Even join a gym if you have one near you. Most gyms, a lot of gyms offer yoga classes, or they offer any kind of thing, even like pool yoga or pool aerobics. Just move the body. One of my students who's a doctor, a medical doctor, his whole thing is, use it or lose it. And he's in his 70s. So that's his philosophy. So definitely the body loves movement. It craves it. And if you give it the movement that is needed, then it'll just take care of you. All right. There's no really need to have this kind of stiffness and the kind of the posture that goes here. Just keep the posture good, and you don't have to be yoga, but just make sure you're doing some movement. Your body will thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Every day, make sure you're doing something where you're not just looking at a screen or going from the house to the car.
Yep.
Move it or lose it. It's classic. It's true, and you don't have to go out there and commit to, all right, I'm gonna run for an hour. Don't overextend, and then you can build your way up to something, right? But just make a commitment to do something every day to keep the blood flowing.
Awesome.
Well, that's all we have, I think, for today. We could keep chatting, but we don't want to keep you all from other pressing things to do. But thanks for having us. Thanks for inviting us. Hopefully you will have us back, and we might even be able to do something live so we get a Q&A going in real time.
Yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I'll be in Virginia the first part of July, and hopefully I'll see you guys, and we can continue the conversation. You know how we do, right, in Charlotte? So we can continue the conversation. Just implement some things that maybe you've learned today. Jot down some questions. Get in touch with us any way you can, and we can help you answer some of those questions for you. But just want to encourage you to go for it. Do what that feels the body needs. All right.
Right, and listen to your body. It's the most intelligent thing out there. It was created for you to take care of, right? This vessel. And unfortunately, I think we don't think about that as much as we should. And then we start